Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your lunchtime catch up on all things Liverpool and your daily reminder that that team that you sweated bullets about for months, remember those guys? They're actually the champions. So maybe instead of getting all bent out of shape about the latest Wirtz update, go ahead and touch grass, roll around in it, and enjoy the fact that you support the champions. It is a wonderful pleasure to be filling in for Dave Hendrick today on his show. I'm always very aware that I will not be what you are expecting when you tune in to listen to your Daily Red, which I do every day. And the best thing I can say in favor of Dave as a podcaster is that his is the only show that I will absolutely listen to all the time. So hats off to him for allowing me to stand in on the platform today. I am Trev Downey, in case you're not aware, and I'm podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. And let's get straight into the crack. Last night on the transfer show with Dave Davis, we were going through what we were hoping would be some, piling up of incident as this initial transfer window closes tonight at 7 p.m. Sadly, an awful lot of the Saudi madness that we were hoping for did not and does not look like it's going to materialize. There are issues around medicals and stuff like that that need to be done by 7 p.m. and it's looking increasingly unlikely. However, there are still some whisperings. And if we start with Liverpool.com today, they have a story which says Liverpool transfer news as Al Nasser are prepared to spend $97 million on Red's ace. And that is, of course, Luis Diaz. And this story broke last night as we were doing the show. Whether it's in the story or not, how much it's breaking or not is up to you. As ever, I always say, don't shoot the messenger. This one is from, like I said, Liverpool.com, and they are quoting, who are they quoting here? There was a journalist, I think it was Ben Jacobs last night, who had this story during our show. And of course, this is a tricky one. And this is kind of the point I wanted to get to with this story as well, because obviously there's the Darwin Nunez thing as well. And people were, I think, and I wonder if the club were expecting quite the windfall from the combined sales of Darwin and probably Luis Diaz as well. And Diaz is a different story completely. His contract is what it is. We have a very good footballer on what a lot of people think is, what is compared to his fellow professionals, a small amount of money. So there is the theory out there that people are concerned that maybe the club would be willing to just run down Diaz's contract at this 50,000 a week or whatever it is, which, compared, like I say, to his teammates, is, very small money. And he could end up being one of those, yet another one who goes in free because the club reckons that, the value is there to keep him, the standard of player we have in him, at that money for 2 more years. And so it seems to be a who's going to flinch first situation there, because it looks like there is money on the table from Al Nasser and possibly another club or two as well. We know he wants Barcelona, but getting involved in transfer shenanigans with Barcelona is not always a good idea. Yes, it worked out very beneficially for us in the past with the Coutinho money, TM. But I just wonder now, the way they are at the moment, whether it's a wonderful idea for us. And of course, that it's going to be a much lower figure as well. And this is the bottom line here. This is the point I'm trying to get to. Because if Darwin Nunez could be expected to reach something around about people were saying, 80 million euros, that kind of thing. Some people thinking 80 million pounds plus. If we could expect 50, 60 for Diaz again in pounds, that would be a massive chunk of the expenditure of the summer accounted for and balanced. And whether or not we're likely to get the colour of that if we deal with clubs in Europe is, it's not even up for debate. It's a fact, we won't. So I wonder how much of the transfer strategy was banking on the fact that, we had this Christmas shenanigans going on with Darwin, and the club in the end seems to have said, no, we need to keep you because our alternative is unavailable. We know Darwin wants out. sorry to skip between Darwin and Luis Diaz as if they're completely interchangeable. They're not. It's just they're both the ones who've been linked with Saudi, and they're both joined by the fact that we would get a financial bonanza compared to what we would get for them in Europe. So this is why I'm speaking about them in this way. It strikes me that we could be in a situation where maybe if the club have banked on that money, having had that, flirtation at in the winter window last season with Nunez, I wonder if they haven't, possibly banked on having that money, quite literally, available to them, or money at that rate. Because we know that Darwin's head has been turned by the apparent interest. It's been quoted from several reliable sources, including Sam Maguire, who used to be a native of this parish. And you can see how both Darwin and Lucho would think, I'm a certain level of player. I want to play in a certain league. We saw Victor Osimhen turning down a boatload of cash, apparently because that is what he wants for himself as well. And I get that. You get one career, and it comes down to a situation of, how much money do you need? And whereas I'll never judge anyone for that, because when you've been raised without money, I think it's very easy to understand why it would be a motivational factor for anyone. I find an awful lot of the smug, how much money do you actually need? That kind of attitude, not really. I can't get on board with that as a guy who never really had a lot of money. There's a sort of a judgment implied in that I don't like. So you have a decision to make if you're Darwin, if you're Lucho. You can take the very attractive money offer. We saw the Champions League losing manager, who's hugely highly rated, do exactly that recently. Or you can back yourself and your desires to be a high-profile footballer playing in a high-profile league, getting very, very well rewarded. Unfortunately for Liverpool, that doesn't really suit our agenda in terms of the money. I don't think any of us would be too upset to see Lucho hanging around for a couple of years. But what kind of player do you get if we don't give him the bump in contract? What does that do to the guy's motivation? What does that say to him about how we rate him? Is there some compromise to be reached there that might leave him not too disgruntled and there for the remainder of his contract? But it doesn't seem. It seems like the club are playing hardball around that. It's either, there's your options. You can continue, see your contract out, or you can go for a bag of cash here, there, or wherever. The Barcelona thing sort of muddied the waters for a while. These are very, very interesting stories, both of them, because, like I say, they're going to have an immense bearing on whether or not we are flush, and whether or not, come this second window, we're going to be able to do the things we want to do. What else do Liverpool.com have for us? Let's just have a quick look here and see if there's any other story, because I know you're going to want me to talk about Wirtz. It being a transfer deadline day. So what have they got here? Florian Wirtz latest. Okay, let's see what this is. This is from Liam Corliss and James Findlater. Liverpool is... I hate that. Oh man, I hate that. Liverpool is... Anyway, continuing to work on deals for Florian Wirtz and Milos Kerkez as the club gets the bulk of its business done early on in the summer. Okay, so we'll just pause it there. I like you, have heard the rumours that Kerkez gets done today. And ask yourself this question. For a combined outlay of what will be probably 70 million plus for Frimpong and Kerkez in this initial transfer window, are you not entertained? Does that not represent adequate spending on behalf of the club? If the Wirtz thing carries on into the second window, what does that do to you? And if we're all being honest, what it does is it frazzles our combined brains. You've seen it. You've seen it. There's nothing like a link to a high-profile player on the back of Liverpool's recent sort of epic pursuits and humiliations to bring out the very, very most gloomy, uh, 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 dark view, worldview types coming out, immediately. So I understand that. I get it. I see what the motivation is there. I don't go in for that on one level or the other. I'm not also like other channels where we've seen fellas basically talking through the season and how the new team is going to look with these new players as if they're already done. I can't go there either. But there has to be a happy meet. The bottom line is, this article here doesn't have anything for us. Like, no article has anything for us. I'm scanning down through